the grief they never taught us to hold. Welcome to the Soft Girl Era podcast, where we unlearn survival and rediscover softness. I'm your host, LeAnne Dolce, pronounced Dolce, like sweet softness whispered in French. Today, I want to share something that shook me to my core, something that made me sit back and realize just how much we've been carrying in silence. I recently had the honor of sitting down with DeLania Braden, and let me tell you, this woman is not just an advocate, she's a lifeline. She's a revolution wrapped in grace and grit. Delania is doing the kind of work that doesn't just change lives, it saves them. She's creating spaces where Black women who've lost their life partners can finally breathe, finally grieve, finally heal without apology. Her work is quietly revolutionizing how we navigate widowhood, loss, and the long, winding road back to joy. And today I want to share what I learned from her with you. Let me start with something that makes people uncomfortable. We don't talk about widowhood enough. We especially don't talk about it in the Black community. We talk about strength. We talk about resilience. We talk about being the backbone, the glue, the rock. But we don't talk about what happens when the person you built your life with is gone. And suddenly you're expected to keep being strong while your entire world has collapsed. We don't talk about the isolation, the stigma, the way grief gets shoved into a corner because everyone's uncomfortable with your tears. And we definitely don't talk about how Black women, in particular, are expected to grieve quietly, quickly, and without making anyone else uncomfortable. We're supposed to show up to work the next week. We're supposed to keep cooking Sunday dinner. We're supposed to smile and say we're fine when inside we're drowning. Delania Braden is changing that conversation. And honestly, it's about time. During our interview, Delania shared insights that hit me right in the chest. She talked about the unique struggles Black widows face, the cultural barriers that make it hard to grieve openly, and the lack of resources that actually speak to our experiences. She talked about the women who feel invisible, who feel like they're supposed to have it all together when inside they're falling apart. And she talked about the power of community, the healing that happens when women come together and say, you know what? I'm not okay. And that's okay. One of the most powerful things Delania emphasized was this: resilience is possible after profound loss. You are not alone, and there is a community and support waiting for you. That's not just a nice sentiment, that's a lifeline. Because when you're in the thick of grief, when you're waking up every day to an empty side of the bed and a future that looks nothing like what you planned, it's easy to believe you're the only one who feels this broken, but you're not. There are women who've walked this path before you, and they're reaching back to pull you forward. Let me tell you about Dr. Karen Sutton. After losing her husband to cancer, Dr. Sutton realized something that changed everything. She realized that Black widows were struggling in silence, isolated by stigma, and a lack of culturally relevant resources. So she did what so many of us do when the world fails us: she built something new. She founded the Sisterhood of Widow Warriors, a support network specifically for Black women who've lost their spouses. And it wasn't just a support group, it was a movement. Dr. Sutton created a space where women could talk openly about their grief without judgment. She brought in peer mentors, women who'd been through it and come out the other side. She hosted empowerment workshops focused on resilience, mental health, and financial literacy, because grief doesn't just break your heart, it can break your bank account too. And the results, they were transformative. Members reported increased emotional well being, a renewed sense of purpose, and stronger community ties. Many of them became advocates for widow support in their own communities, turning their pain into power. The Sisterhood of Widow Warriors grew to over 2,000 members nationwide. They hosted annual conferences. They partnered with mental health organizations to provide free counseling. And most importantly, they shifted the narrative around widowhood in the Black community. They gave women permission to grieve, to heal, and to reclaim their joy and leadership. That's what DeLania Braden is fighting for. That's the work she's championing. And it's not just about surviving loss, it's about thriving after it. Now, let's talk about vulnerability. Because here's the second thing Delania wants you to remember: embracing vulnerability is a strength, not a weakness. It's okay to cry, to grieve, and to seek help. These are essential steps in the journey toward healing and empowerment. I know. We've been taught our whole lives that vulnerability is dangerous, that showing emotion is a sign of weakness, that asking for help means you're not strong enough to handle it on your own. But that's a lie, and it's a lie that's keeping us stuck. Joyce Singleton knows this. She's the founder and CEO of Black Women Widows Empowered, and her story is a testament to the power of vulnerability. After her own journey through widowhood, Joyce realized that so many Black women felt invisible and unsupported after losing their partners. They were encountering cultural barriers to open grieving, barriers that told them to be strong, to move on, to stop making everyone else uncomfortable with their sadness. So Joyce did something radical. She launched virtual support groups, storytelling campaigns, and wellness retreats tailored specifically to the unique needs of Black women. She created spaces where women could be vulnerable, where they could share their stories without fear of judgment, where they could cry and rage and laugh and heal together. And the impact was profound. Participants reported decreased feelings of isolation, increased self confidence, and a greater willingness to seek professional help for grief. Black Women Widows Empowered has helped thousands of women. They've published a book of personal stories. They've received recognition from national mental health associations, and they've become a model for culturally sensitive grief support, proving that when we embrace vulnerability, we open the door to real, lasting healing. Delania Braden echoed this in our interview. She talked about how vulnerability is the gateway to empowerment, how it's not about being weak, it's about being honest. It's about saying, I'm hurting and I need help. And that honesty, that's where the healing begins. That's where the transformation starts. That's where we stop pretending and start living again. But here's the thing, and this is the third thing Delania wants you to remember: joy and redemption are attainable even after the darkest moments. By honoring your loved one's memory and finding purpose in your pain, you can rebuild a life filled with meaning and hope. I want you to sit with that for a second. Joy after loss. It sounds impossible, doesn't it? When you're in the middle of grief, when you're just trying to make it through the day, the idea of joy feels like a cruel joke. But it's not. It's a promise. It's a destination. And it's waiting for you on the other side of your grief. The American Cancer Society partnered with Black churches to support widows and caregivers affected by cancer loss. And what they found was remarkable. Black women caregivers were often overwhelmed by grief, financial strain, and a lack of accessible resources after losing loved ones to cancer. So the partnership provided grief counseling, financial planning workshops, and spiritual support groups within trusted community spaces, within the church where so many of us find our strength. And the outcomes were beautiful. Widows reported feeling more supported, empowered to manage their new responsibilities, and inspired to advocate for cancer awareness. They attended healing retreats. They accessed resources. They found their voices again. And most importantly, they found joy again. Not the same joy they had before, but a new joy, a deeper joy, a joy rooted in resilience and purpose, a joy that honored the past while embracing the future. That's what Delania Braden is helping women discover: that grief and joy can coexist, that you can honor your loved one's memory while also building a new life. That redemption is possible even when it feels impossible, that you can laugh again, love again, live again. So here's what I want you to understand: healing is not linear, it's messy, it's complicated, it's full of setbacks and breakthroughs and moments where you feel like you're right back where you started, but it's also full of grace. It's full of community. It's full of women who've walked this path before you and are reaching back to pull you forward. The Sisterhood of Widow Warriors, Black Women Widows Empowered, the partnerships between faith communities and health organizations. These are not just programs, they're lifelines. They're proof that when we come together, when we create space for vulnerability and healing, we can transform pain into purpose. We can reclaim our joy, we can rebuild our lives, we can rewrite the narrative. And that's what the soft girl era is all about. It's about releasing the cape. It's about redefining strength. It's about embracing softness and healing in real time. It's about protecting your peace as a practice and finding purpose beyond pain. It's about learning to be soft in a world that taught you survival. DeLania Braden is doing this work every single day. She's creating space where Black widows can heal without apology. She's shifting the narrative around grief and loss in the Black community. She's reminding us that resilience is possible, that vulnerability is strength, and that joy is attainable even after the darkest moments. Now, here's where I need you to lean in, because this isn't just information. This is a call. This is a challenge. This is me asking you to do something that might feel uncomfortable, but I promise you it will change everything. If you're struggling with grief, if you're feeling isolated or invisible, or like you're supposed to have it all together when you're falling apart, I need you to reach out today, not tomorrow, not next week, today. Reach out to a support group, a trusted friend, a professional. Take one small step to honor your journey and open yourself to healing. Because vulnerability is the gateway to empowerment, and you deserve to heal. You deserve to find joy again. You deserve to enter your soft girl era, where you're no longer carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders, where you're learning to be soft in a world that taught you survival. And if you're not struggling with grief, if you're listening to this and thinking, this doesn't apply to me, I need you to do something too. Look around. Who in your life is hurting? Who's putting on a brave face but barely holding it together? Reach out to them, create space for them to be vulnerable, be the community they need, because we all have a role to play in this healing revolution. Here's the truth that nobody wants to say out loud: we're all one phone call away from grief. We're all one diagnosis, one accident, one unexpected moment away from our world falling apart. And when that moment comes, and it will come, we need to know that there's a community waiting to catch us. We need to know that we don't have to carry it alone. We need to know that joy is still possible on the other side. So I'm asking you to be part of that community. I'm asking you to show up for the women in your life who are grieving. I'm asking you to create spaces where vulnerability is welcomed, where tears are honored, where healing is prioritized. I'm asking you to be the lifeline that someone desperately needs. Because here's what DeLania Braden taught me: healing is not a solo journey, it's a collective one. It's women reaching back to pull other women forward. It's creating spaces where we can be honest about our pain and our hope. It's building a world where Black women don't have to grieve in silence, where we can release the cape and embrace our softness, where we can find joy again, even after the darkest moments. This is the work. This is the revolution. This is the soft girl era. And it starts with you. It starts with one brave step toward vulnerability, one honest conversation, one moment of reaching out instead of holding it all in, one decision to choose healing over hiding. So, what will you do? Will you reach out? Will you create space? Will you be the community that someone needs? Will you honor your grief and your joy with equal reverence? Will you choose softness over survival? The choice is yours. But I promise you this, on the other side of that choice is a life you can't even imagine right now, a life filled with healing and hope and joy and community, a life where you're not just surviving, you're thriving, a life where you're not just strong, you're soft, a life where you're not alone. You're surrounded by women who see you, who honor you, who are walking this journey with you. That's the promise of the soft girl era. That's the gift DeLania Braden is giving to the world. And that's the invitation I'm extending to you today. Will you accept it?